Welcome to the 14th video in this series on adapting a 2005 Mustang brake, suspension, engine, transmission, all to a 1974 Mercury Capri. Of course, this is the V6 Mustang, not the V8. Although there may be room for a V8 in there. We're just doing the V6, which is double what the Mercury had in 1974 horsepower-wise. This first clip is me temporarily hooking up the throttle or the accelerator pedal. That actually happened before we started it. In the last video, you saw us start it, and I just forgot to put that clip in. Anyway, the accelerator hooked up. Here we have ordered an electric fan and radiator from Speedway Motors. The fan showed up, the radiator didn't, but we still got 2 more weeks before the race, so I'm not too worried. And I have lots of other things to work on, the brakes being front of my list for right now. Now I'm using the hard lines, brake lines from the 2005 Mustang, running them to the front axles here on the Mercury, and they actually lined up quite well. Modified a few bends, added a couple bends, but didn't have to do anything too radical with those steel lines. Now, so I did the front axle with reusing the 2005 Mustang brake lines. Now, the other brake lines I was going to have to fabricate, and here's where I got myself into a little bit of trouble, is that I bought the inexpensive steel brake line from Napa or Checker, can't remember which auto store. Anyway, I spent a couple days trying to flare those with a flaring tool that was really built for the nickel copper, the softer nickel copper line. And I just had forgotten. It's been so many years since I'd done brake lines. Now, Keaton is actually working on the electric cutoff switch, a master kill switch for the car. So you just saw him cutting steel to make a bracket to mount this kill switch on. The kill switch needs to be mounted someplace that not only the driver can get to it, but emergency personnel can reach it easily. So we were going to mount it to the driver's side roll cage upright down near the dash, but we needed to build a little bracket to hold it. So Keaton was working on that, and then he's working on wiring for that system. And then you will see me. We've really sped this up because it's not much detail in this wide shot of the shop. But you can see Keaton working on wiring. We actually cannibalized a couple sets of jumper cables because we couldn't find any place that had the heavy enough gauge wiring in stock. So we just bought a set of jumper cables and cannibalized them to get the wire we needed. Here, though, we're being visited by Jennifer Udy. She and her husband Clayne are good family friends, and there's my wife Annette in the lower right. Anyway, Clayne was one of the team members to drive the car, and since she was in town, they live in Denver. Since she was in town, they were checking on our progress. So 2 weeks to go, and it started, but we have a lot to get done. Anyway, this is sped up quite a bit because we're really just, flaring brake lines, and now I've gotten the right brake line, the silver or the copper colored copper nickel line that's softer and much easier to work with. My flaring tool will do the bubble ends just fine, and it's much easier to route and do everything I need to do. It's just a lot more expensive than steel line, but that's okay. Brakes do not count against your $500 limit for lemons, so none of this brake line had to be put into our accounting. We just had to get the job done. So that's what I'm working on, and Keaton continues to work on that kill switch wiring. It needs to not only shut down the engine, but it needs to shut down electricity to all the car's systems. And so there's a couple different things that had to be kind of rerouted, like the starter line and the line to the computer and a few other things to go through that kill switch so that we knew that the car was truly dead when the kill switch was hit. And I was glad Keaton was doing all that because he's younger than me and he can climb under that dash better than I can. And he actually has an electrical engineering degree, which I do not have, and reads the schematics better than I do, way quicker than I do anyway. So you can see we've got a blanket set in there over the transmission because we don't have the transmission tunnel built up yet. And so when you're climbing through and on, and we're securing the computer and fuse box that got relocated. It usually lives in under the front hood of the Mustang, but we didn't have space for it in the Capri, so it got moved to the passenger floor. Well, here we built a bracket that you saw that T-channel aluminum bracket that Keaton used to mount the bottom of that thing, and we used neoprene rubber blocks underneath it to kind of give it some shock absorbing, take the vibration out of it. And then you see Keaton kind of reworking harnesses, and we're both just rerunning wire that needs to be run. You see that kill switch on the left side of the shot with all the red wires running to it. Keaton's gonna move that up to hook up there to the roll cage here shortly, but there's a lot of work to do in harnessing. He's using a lot of zip ties to get everything clean and well organized and make sure that we don't have any electrical issues during the race. And you'll see line get pulled through here while he's out front. And if you watch to the lower right, you'll see lines move and see lines come in, and he's just getting everything hooked up to accommodate that kill switch. Now, let's see. Then we're going to switch over. I think we're going to see more of the brakes work on that. Coming right up here. But Keaton is almost done with the kill switch. Now this is the passenger side rear, and this was a problem that we ran into, is the back axle from the Mustang is wider than the body of the Capri. Now the wheel wells were all rusted out on the Capri, so it didn't really bother us to cut that rust out. That would have had to been done anyway if you're going to restore the car. But as far as making a bigger fender well opening, that wasn't a big deal. The problem is that the brake line, the flexible brake line on the axle was too short to reach the body of the Caprice because this rack, the axle hung so far out from the body of the Capri. So what we found though is that we were able to buy a set of front flex lines, and with a little bit of modification, get them to fit on the rear brakes. The name of the brake pad, the thing that holds the brake pad, escapes me at the moment. But we were able to modify those brake lines, and it was an inexpensive solution. I wasn't sure what we were going to have to order, but because the front brake lines are longer, flex brake lines that go basically from the hard lines on the body to the axle and the hub assembly, the calipers. There's the word I'm looking for. Mounted to the calipers. Now here you can see Keaton has mounted that kill switch and had to relocate the light switch down a little bit to do it, but that's in there now, and we just have these brake lines to finish, or not just, but that's still going on. And here I've got a long run, or what I'm using is a piece of wire to get a pattern, so I'll know how long of this copper nickel brake line I'll need. So I don't know that you could really see me using the wire and checking measurements there, but there I just tied it off at the end, and I'm running it along to see, okay, do I have enough, and then cutting that copper line. You don't want to end up cutting that 6 inches too short and then have to do another really long one or a patch in it. So it was good to use a piece of wire to get that right. Now I'm doing flaring and getting this put in. There will be more brake work on the next video, but I'm trying to keep these down under around 10-11 minutes each, and so we'll be wrapping this one up shortly. But this video will, kind of get me running that line up to the anti-lock brake manifold and up in that driver's side front fender. All those brake lines run up in that driver's side fender, and I do want to put, it's not done yet, but I do want to put a better shielding for them. Hasn't been an issue so far, but that I'd like them better shielded than they are up in there. Anyway, that's all for this video. Thanks for watching. We'll have another one posted soon.